The black Mercedes sliced through the darkness at 80 miles per hour, its headlights carving tunnels through the February night as Ivan Voss gripped the steering wheel with both hands. The highway stretched empty before him, a ribbon of asphalt unfurling toward nowhere, and he welcomed the solitude after another suffocating charity gala where people smiled too wide and laughed too loud at his jokes. His tuxedo jacket lay crumpled in the passenger seat, bow tie hanging loose around his neck, and the taste of expensive champagne still lingered bitter on his tongue. He almost missed her. A flash of white caught his peripheral vision, there and gone, and his foot instinctively moved toward the brake before his brain caught up. Ivan checked his rearview mirror and saw her, a figure in pale clothing walking along the shoulder of the highway, shoulders hunched against the cold. At 2 in the morning. Alone. His rational mind told him to keep driving, that stopping on a dark highway invited trouble, but something in the vulnerable slope of her posture made him slow down. He pulled onto the shoulder 100 yards ahead and watched through his side mirror as she approached. The emergency flashers cast rhythmic orange light across the interior of his car. Ivan reached for his phone, ready to call for help if needed, but he opened his door and stepped out into the night air that cut through his dress shirt like knives. She stopped walking when she saw him standing by the car. Even from 20 feet away, he could see her body tense, preparing to run. "I'm not going to hurt you," Ivan called out, keeping his hands visible. "I just want to make sure you're okay. It's not safe out here. I'm fine." Her voice carried on the wind, young and defiant despite the tremor underneath. She started walking again, giving his car a wide berth. "Please." He took one step forward, watching her flinch. "At least let me call someone for you. Family, friends." She laughed, and it was the saddest sound Ivan had ever heard. "There's no one to call." Now that she was closer, he could see her more clearly in the glow of his flashers. Early 20s, maybe 23 or 24, with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore white sneakers that looked new, jeans, and a light jacket that was nowhere near warm enough for February in Nevada. Her face was streaked with dried tears, and she carried nothing. No purse, no phone, nothing. "What's your name?" Ivan asked, softening his voice. She hesitated, hugging herself against the cold. "Bianca. Bianca, I'm Ivan. Will you please let me help you? I can take you wherever you need to go. Police station, hospital, hotel, your choice." "I don't have any money for a hotel." The words came out flat, defeated. "I'm not asking you for money. Look, I know this is strange and you have no reason to trust me, but you can't walk down a highway in the middle of the night. It's freezing and it's dangerous." A semi-truck roared past, its wind wake nearly knocking Bianca off her feet. Ivan saw the exact moment her resolve crumbled. Her shoulders sagged and she wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "There's a diner about 15 miles up," she said finally. "I was trying to get there. That's a 4-hour walk. Get in the car, I'll drive you." Bianca studied him for a long moment, and Ivan understood she was weighing her options, calculating risks. Finally, she walked toward the passenger side. Ivan quickly grabbed his jacket from the seat and held the door open for her. She slid in, moving carefully, as if expecting him to change into someone dangerous at any moment. He cranked up the heat as soon as he got behind the wheel. "There's water in the center console if you want it." She didn't respond, just stared straight ahead as Ivan pulled back onto the highway. The silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable, but Ivan didn't push. Whatever had put her on that highway at 2 in the morning was none of his business unless she wanted it to be. After 5 minutes, Bianca spoke. "Why did you turn around?" "I'm not sure," Ivan admitted. "I saw you and I couldn't just keep driving. Most people would. Then most people are wrong." She turned to look at him for the first time, really look at him, and Ivan felt the weight of her assessment. He wondered what she saw. A man in his early 30s wearing a tuxedo shirt and driving a car that cost more than most people's houses. Someone who lived in a different world entirely. "You were at some fancy party," Bianca said. It wasn't a question. A charity gala. Lots of people pretending to care about causes they'll forget by morning. Sounds terrible. It was. Ivan surprised himself with his honesty. He usually deflected questions about his life with practiced ease. "What about you? What were you doing out here?" Bianca's jaw tightened. "Running away from a bad situation." "Do you need me to call the police?" "No, nothing like that. Just needed to get out." The lights of the diner appeared ahead, a beacon of fluorescent warmth in the darkness. Ivan pulled into the mostly empty parking lot and killed the engine. Through the windows, he could see a tired waitress wiping down tables while a cook smoked a cigarette by the back door. "Thank you for the ride," Bianca said, reaching for the door handle. "Wait." Ivan pulled out his wallet and extracted several bills. "Take this." She stared at the money like it might bite her. "I can't." "Yes, you can. Get something to eat, use their phone to call someone, or just sit somewhere warm for a while. You don't even know me. I know you needed help and I could give it." Ivan held out the money. "Please." Bianca took the bills with shaking hands, and he saw tears well up in her eyes again. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Ivan pulled out a business card from his wallet and handed it to her as well. "If you need more help, call this number. I mean it." She looked at the card, her eyes widening slightly as she read it. "Ivan Voss, President and CEO, Voss Development Group." "You're that Voss, the one who builds all those hotels." "Guilty." He tried to smile, but it felt wrong, showing off wealth when she clearly had nothing. "I definitely can't take your money then. You've done enough." "Bianca, please, it's just money. If our positions were reversed, you'd do the same thing." She studied the card for another moment, then tucked it carefully into her pocket along with the cash. "Thank you, really. This is more than anyone's done for me in a long time." Ivan watched her walk into the diner, waiting until she was safely inside and seated in a booth before he drove away. Something about leaving her there felt wrong, but what else could he do? She was a stranger, someone who had crossed his path for 10 minutes on a random February night. By tomorrow, they'd both move on with their separate lives, except Ivan couldn't stop thinking about her. He drove the remaining hour to his penthouse in Las Vegas, replaying their brief conversation, wondering about the bad situation she had been running from, hoping the money he had given her would be enough. When he finally fell into bed as dawn painted his floor-to-ceiling windows pink and gold, Bianca's sad laugh echoed in his mind. The next morning, Ivan woke to his phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. He groaned and checked the time. 9:30. 3 hours of sleep. Perfect. "This better be important," he growled into the phone. "Good morning to you too, sunshine." His assistant, Marcus, sounded far too cheerful. "I'm calling to remind you about your 10 o'clock with the architects for the Phoenix project. Cancel it. I need to reschedule." "Ivan, you've rescheduled twice already. They're getting annoyed. Then they can be annoyed. I'll make it up to them." Ivan sat up, running a hand through his dark hair. "Actually, Marcus, I need you to do something for me. It's personal." "Oh," Marcus's tone shifted to interested. "Do tell." "Last night I picked up a woman on Highway 95 south of the city. She was walking alone at 2 in the morning. I took her to a diner near mile marker 47. You picked up a stranger on a highway. Are you trying to give me a heart attack? Focus, Marcus. I need you to find out if she's still there. If she is, I want you to arrange a hotel room for her. Somewhere nice but not intimidating. The Embassy Suites downtown should work. And if she's not at the diner," Ivan hadn't considered that, "then I guess there's nothing we can do." But check, please. You're being mysterious and chivalrous. Should I be concerned? Just do it, Marcus, and keep it quiet. 3 hours later, Marcus called back. Your mystery woman is still at the diner. She's been sitting in the same booth all morning, nursing coffee and looking lost. I spoke to the manager, who said she asked about job openings, but they're not hiring. I offered her the hotel room like you said. And she refused, said she doesn't accept charity. I told her it was already paid for and would go to waste if she didn't use it. That convinced her, but she wasn't happy about it. She's being transported there now. Ivan felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. Good, thank you, Marcus. Want to tell me what this is about? I don't really know, Ivan admitted. I just couldn't stop thinking about her out there alone. Careful, boss. Your humanitarian side is showing. Ivan hung up and tried to focus on work, but his attention kept drifting. He pulled out his laptop and did something he never did. He cleared his afternoon schedule and drove back to the embassy suites. He told himself he just wanted to make sure Bianca was settled, that this was simple human decency. But he knew he was lying to himself. The front desk called up to her room, and after a long pause, they told him she would meet him in the lobby. Ivan paced by the fountain, hands in his pockets, feeling oddly nervous. When Bianca stepped off the elevator, he noticed she had showered and changed into fresh clothes. She must have bought them from the hotel shop. She looked younger in the daylight and so incredibly vulnerable. You did this, she said without preamble. The hotel, it was you, not your assistant, guilty again. Why? Bianca crossed her arms. You don't know me, I could be anyone. A scam artist, a drug addict, whatever. Are you any of those things? No, but you didn't know that. Ivan gestured toward the seating area near the windows. Can we sit? I promise this isn't weird, or it is weird, but not in a dangerous way. Bianca followed him cautiously and perched on the edge of an armchair while Ivan took the couch across from her. In the natural light, he could see her more clearly. She had brown eyes that looked too old for her face, a small scar above her left eyebrow, and calluses on her hands that spoke of hard work. I need to know you're going to be okay, Ivan said. That's all this is. Last night, I drove away from that diner and I couldn't shake the feeling that I should have done more. You did more than enough, more than anyone else would have. Then humor me. Tell me what happened. Why were you on that highway? Bianca was quiet for so long that Ivan thought she might get up and walk away. Finally, she spoke. I was living with my boyfriend in a trailer park outside of Henderson. He wasn't a good guy, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. My mom died 2 years ago and I don't have any other family. Last night he came home drunk and started breaking things, screaming at me. I've seen him like that before and I knew if I stayed, things would get worse. So I grabbed my jacket and ran. Did he hurt you? Ivan's hands clenched into fists. Not this time. I got out before it could escalate. But all my stuff is still there. My phone, my wallet, everything. I worked at a grocery store, but I missed my shift today, so I probably don't have a job anymore either. Bianca, Ivan leaned forward. You did the right thing by leaving. You know that, right? She shrugged, but he could see the doubt in her eyes. I don't know anything anymore. I'm 23 years old with literally nothing to my name. No car, no money, no place to live. I'm worse off than I was when I was 18. You're alive. That's what matters. Everything else we can figure out. We, Bianca raised an eyebrow. There is no we. You're being nice, which I appreciate, but you're going to go back to your fancy CEO life and forget about me by next week. Ivan should have agreed with her. Should have offered her some more money, wished her well, and walked away. Instead, he heard himself say, what if I offered you a job? Doing what? I don't exactly have hotel development experience. I own a lot of properties. Hotels, apartment complexes, commercial buildings. They all need staff. You said you worked at a grocery store. What did you do there? Cashier mostly, sometimes inventory. Can you use a computer? Basic stuff, yeah. Ivan pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to Marcus. I'm going to have my assistant set up an interview for you at one of my apartment complexes. They need someone for the leasing office. It's entry level, but it comes with benefits and it pays better than grocery store work. Why are you doing this? Bianca's voice broke. People don't just help like this. What do you want from me? The question hung heavy between them, and Ivan realized how his actions must look. Wealthy man swoops in to save vulnerable woman. It was the setup for something ugly, something transactional, and he felt sick that she had to even ask. I don't want anything from you, Ivan said firmly. I was in a position to help and I did, that's all. If you want the job interview, great. If you don't, that's fine too. The hotel room is paid for a week regardless, no strings attached. Bianca studied his face, searching for the lie, the angle. Ivan held her gaze and let her look. Finally, some of the tension eased from her shoulders. Okay, she said quietly, I'll do the interview. Good. Ivan stood. Marcus will be in touch with the details. In the meantime, get some rest, eat, use the hotel amenities. You've been through something traumatic. He started to walk away, then turned back. And Bianca, if your boyfriend comes looking for you, call the police. Then call me, I mean it. She nodded, and Ivan left before he could do something stupid like offer to let her stay in one of his spare bedrooms. He had already crossed enough boundaries for one day. The interview must have gone well, because 2 days later, Marcus informed him that Bianca Foster had been hired at the Sunset Palms apartment complex as a leasing assistant. Ivan told himself that was the end of it. He had helped someone in need, she had landed on her feet, and they could both move on. He threw himself into work with renewed focus, flying to San Francisco to oversee a hotel renovation, then to Phoenix for groundbreaking on a new resort. 3 weeks passed. Ivan attended another charity gala, this one for literacy programs, and found himself just as bored as the last one. A woman in a silver dress tried to get his attention, but Ivan politely excused himself and stepped onto the terrace for air. The Las Vegas Strip glittered below him, a river of light and money and people chasing dreams that would probably never come true. His phone rang. Unknown number. Ivan almost declined, but something made him answer. Hello, Ivan, it's Bianca. From the highway. I'm sorry to bother you, but I didn't know who else to call. His pulse quickened. What's wrong? Are you okay? I'm fine, but there's a situation. Can you come to Sunset Palms? I'm in the leasing office. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ivan made his excuses to the gala hosts and drove across town faster than he should have. Sunset Palms was one of his mid-tier properties, nice but not luxurious, catering mostly to young professionals and small families. The leasing office was dark except for one light in the back. Ivan knocked on the glass door and Bianca appeared, unlocking it quickly. Thank you for coming, she said, stepping aside to let him in. I know this is weird. What happened? Bianca led him to the back office where a teenage girl sat on a folding chair, arms wrapped around a backpack. She looked 15 or 16, with bleached blonde hair and defiant eyes that didn't quite hide her fear. This is Jenna, Bianca said. I found her trying to break into one of the vacant units about an hour ago. Ivan looked at Jenna, then back at Bianca. And you called me instead of the police because I know what it's like, Bianca said softly, to have nowhere to go and be desperate enough to break into an empty apartment. I thought maybe we could help her instead of getting her arrested. Jenna glared at them both. I don't need your help, just let me go. Where will you go? Ivan asked, crouching down to her level. Do you have family, friends? That's none of your business. You're right, it's not. But if you're trying to break into apartments, I'm guessing you're in trouble, so let us help." "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Ivan glanced at Bianca and saw her suppressing a smile. "Let's just say I have a good example of what helping strangers can accomplish. Are you hungry?" 30 minutes later, the three of them sat in a 24-hour diner, not the same one from that night on the highway, but similar enough to feel like déjà vu. Jenna demolished a burger and fries while Ivan and Bianca sipped coffee and waited. Finally, the girls' defenses started to crumble. "I ran away from my foster home," Jenna admitted, not meeting their eyes. "They're not bad people, but I don't fit there. I don't fit anywhere." "How long have you been on the streets?" Bianca asked gently. 3 days. "Jenna, you need to go back," Ivan said. "I know foster care isn't perfect, but it's better than being homeless and vulnerable." "You don't understand." Tears spilled down Jenna's cheeks. "Nobody wants me. I've been in 7 homes in 4 years. I'm just a problem they pass around." Bianca reached across the table and took Jenna's hand. "You're not a problem. You're a kid who deserves stability and people who care about you." They called social services, and Ivan used every connection he had to ensure Jenna was placed with a family that specialized in troubled teens. Before the social worker arrived to collect her, Ivan slipped Jenna his business card. He seemed to be going through a lot of those lately. "If things get bad again, call me," he told her, "before you end up on the streets." "Promise?" Jenna nodded and pocketed the card. After she left, Ivan and Bianca sat in the diner booth in silence, processing the evening. "Thank you," Bianca said finally, "for not making me feel crazy for calling you. You did the right thing. She needed help." Ivan paused. "How are you doing, really?" "Better. The job is good. Your property manager, Susan, has been great about training me. I'm staying at the extended stay hotel on Boulder Highway until I save enough for a deposit on an apartment. You could have rented at Sunset Palms. Employees get a discount." "I know, but I didn't want anyone thinking I got special treatment because I know the owner." Bianca wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "People already gossip enough about how I got the job." Ivan felt a flash of anger. "What do people say? Use your imagination. I'm sure you can figure it out." "That's unacceptable. I'll talk to Susan." "Don't." Bianca's voice was firm. "I can handle it. I'm used to people making assumptions. Besides, proving them wrong through my work is more satisfying than having the boss fight my battles." Ivan admired her strength, even as he hated that she had to have it. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you have to deal with that. Not your fault." Bianca smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "Besides, if dealing with gossip is the price I pay for having a stable job and a safe place to sleep, I'll take it." They talked until the diner staff started giving them pointed looks and wiping down nearby tables. Ivan learned that Bianca had grown up in a small town in Arizona, that her mother had struggled with addiction, that she had essentially raised herself. She had dreams of going to college someday, maybe studying social work. Ivan found himself sharing things he rarely told anyone: how building his company had cost him his marriage 3 years ago, how he sometimes felt like he was drowning in expectations and obligations, how that night he picked her up on the highway. He had been driving aimlessly because he couldn't face going home to his empty penthouse. "I should let you get back to your hotel," Ivan said, checking his watch and realizing it was past midnight. "This was nice," Bianca said as they walked to his car. "Talking to someone who gets it. Not many people understand what it's like to feel lost even when you have a roof over your head." Ivan drove her to the extended stay hotel and watched to make sure she got safely inside. As he drove home, he realized this was becoming a pattern. He was thinking about Bianca when he should be thinking about quarterly reports and expansion plans. It was dangerous, this pull he felt toward her. She worked for him, in a sense. She was vulnerable and rebuilding her life. The last thing she needed was her wealthy boss developing feelings for her. So Ivan did what he always did when emotions got complicated. He buried himself in work. He flew to Denver, then Seattle, then Miami, touring properties and meeting with investors. But Bianca kept sneaking into his thoughts. He wondered if she was settling into the job, if she had found an apartment yet, if she was eating enough. Marcus caught him checking in with Susan about Bianca's performance, and gave him a knowing look that Ivan chose to ignore. 2 months after the night on the highway, Ivan returned to Las Vegas and decided to do a routine inspection of Sunset Palms. He told himself it was standard procedure, that he regularly visited his properties. He ignored Marcus's raised eyebrow when he announced his plans. The apartment complex looked good. Landscaping neat, buildings freshly painted, residents seeming happy. Ivan chatted with Susan for a while, then casually asked if Bianca was around. "She's showing a unit in Building C," Susan said, not bothering to hide her smile. "She's become one of our best leasing agents. Great with people, especially families. She has this way of making everyone feel welcome." Ivan found himself walking toward Building C like he was pulled by a magnet. Through the window of a ground-floor apartment, he could see Bianca showing the space to a young couple with a toddler. She was pointing out the cabinet space in the kitchen, bouncing the toddler on her hip when the mother needed to check something on her phone. She looked confident, professional, happy. Ivan's chest tightened with something he refused to name. Bianca spotted him through the window and her eyes widened in surprise. She said something to the couple, then stepped out into the courtyard. "Ivan, hi. I didn't know you were doing an inspection today. Last-minute decision." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "You look good, happy." "I am happy. This job, it's given me a fresh start." She glanced back at the apartment. "I should get back to them. They're ready to sign a lease." "Right, of course. I'll let you work." Ivan started to walk away, but Bianca called out, "Wait. Are you free for coffee after? I get off in an hour." They met at a coffee shop down the street. Nothing fancy. Just a local place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Bianca ordered a vanilla latte and Ivan got black coffee, and they sat in a corner booth where sunlight streamed through dusty windows. "So what's really going on?" Bianca asked, getting straight to the point. "You don't usually show up unannounced at properties, do you?" "How do you know that?" Susan mentioned it. "She's been here 5 years and said you've only visited twice before today." Ivan felt exposed. "I wanted to see how you were doing." "You could have called or texted. You have my number from when I called about Jenna." "Would you have answered?" "Probably not," Bianca admitted. "I've been trying to keep my distance. People already think I slept my way into this job. If they knew we were friends, it would only make things worse." "We're friends." Ivan heard the hope in his voice and hated himself for it. Bianca looked down at her latte. "Aren't we? You saved me when I was at my lowest. You gave me a job and a second chance. You drove across town at night to help a kid I found breaking into an apartment. If that's not friendship, what is? It's definitely friendship." Ivan wanted to say more, wanted to tell her that he thought about her constantly, that she had woken something in him he thought his divorce had killed. But she was right about the optics, about the power imbalance. So he kept his mouth shut and drank his coffee. They fell into an easy rhythm after that. Coffee meetings became weekly events, always somewhere neutral, always public. Ivan learned that Bianca had moved into her own apartment in Sunset Palms, that she was taking online classes toward an associate degree, that she had adopted a cat named Mango who liked to sleep in the kitchen sink. Bianca learned that Ivan was an only child whose parents had died in a car accident when he was 25. that he had built his company from a single property he bought with his inheritance, that he collected vinyl records and couldn't cook to save his life. Spring turned to summer. Las Vegas baked under relentless sun, and Ivan found excuses to visit Sunset Palms more frequently. Marcus stopped commenting and just shook his head every time Ivan cleared his schedule for another property inspection. Susan definitely knew something was going on but had the grace to stay quiet about it. One evening in July, Ivan was working late in his office when his phone rang. Bianca's name lit up the screen. "Hey, what's up? I'm sorry to call so late." Her voice sounded strange, tight. "But I need a favor." "Anything. What do you need?" "Can you meet me at Desert Springs Hospital?" "It's not me, I'm fine, but it's Jenna. She ran away from her foster placement again and she called me. Someone hurt her, Ivan." "She's okay, but she's scared and the hospital wants to notify CPS and she's freaking out." "I'm on my way." Ivan broke traffic laws getting to the hospital. He found Bianca in the emergency waiting room, pacing back and forth, her hair escaping from its ponytail. She had clearly rushed straight from work, still wearing her Sunset Palms polo and khaki pants. "Where is she?" Ivan asked. "Room 7. The doctor is with her now. She has bruises on her arms and a black eye. She won't say what happened." They waited together, Bianca's knee bouncing with nervous energy. Ivan wanted to pull her close, tell her it would be okay, but he kept his hands in his lap and settled for sitting close enough that their shoulders touched. A doctor emerged, followed by a social worker Ivan recognized from the night they called about Jenna before. The social worker, Patricia, shook her head when she saw them. "You two have a habit of showing up around this girl," Patricia said, but her tone was more amused than accusatory. "She's asking for you, both of you." Jenna sat on the hospital bed looking smaller and younger than her 16 years. The bruises on her arms were shaped like fingerprints and her black eye was swollen shut. Fury burned in Ivan's chest. "Who did this to you?" he asked, keeping his voice gentle despite the rage coursing through him. "Some guy at the group home. He's 18 and thinks he runs the place. I told him to leave me alone and he didn't like that." Jenna's good eye filled with tears. "I can't go back there, I won't." Bianca sat on the bed beside her. "You don't have to, we'll figure something else out." "There is no something else. I've been through every placement in the system. Nobody wants me." Ivan looked at Bianca, saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. They were both thinking the same crazy, impossible thing. "What if we found you a different kind of placement?" Ivan said slowly. "What if you had a more permanent situation?" "What are you talking about?" Jenna wiped her eyes. "Give me a minute." Ivan stepped out into the hallway and called his lawyer. It was 9 at night, but Craig answered on the second ring, because Ivan paid him enough to always be available. "I need to know about emergency foster placements and what it would take to become a licensed foster parent in Nevada," Ivan said without preamble. "This is a new one, even for you," Craig said. "Give me 20 minutes." Ivan paced the hallway while Bianca stayed with Jenna. Patricia joined him after a few minutes, arms crossed. "You're thinking about fostering her," Patricia said. "Is that crazy? Maybe. You're a single man with a demanding career. Foster parenting isn't easy, especially with a teenager who has trauma history. But it's possible. It's possible. You'd need to get licensed, which takes time. Home study, background checks, training classes. We're talking months and Jenna needs placement now." Ivan's phone rang. Craig already calling back. "Okay, here's what I found. Emergency foster placement can happen more quickly if you can prove you have the resources and a suitable home. Given your financial situation and clean record, we could probably expedite things. But you'd still need to commit to the full licensing process and have a plan for her care when you travel." "Not a problem." Ivan's mind was already working through logistics. Draw up whatever paperwork we need. He went back into Jenna's room where Bianca was braiding the girl's hair, something simple and soothing. Both of them looked up when he entered. "Jenna, how would you feel about staying with me for a while?" Ivan asked. "It would be temporary at first, a foster situation, but if it works out, maybe something more permanent." Jenna stared at him like he had spoken a foreign language. "You want to foster me? Why?" "Because you deserve better than group homes and foster placements that don't work out." "Because I have the space and the resources to give you stability. And because someone once told me that helping people isn't about whether you know them, it's about being in a position to make a difference." Tears streamed down Jenna's face. "But you don't even know me." Bianca squeezed her hand. "He didn't know me either when he picked me up on a highway at 2 in the morning. Sometimes that's how the best things start." The paperwork and red tape took 2 weeks, but Ivan called in favors and expedited everything that could be expedited. In the meantime, Jenna stayed in a temporary foster home that Patricia personally vetted. Ivan spent those 2 weeks transforming one of his spare bedrooms into a teenager's room, hiring an interior designer who specialized in youth spaces, and letting Jenna pick out everything from paint colors to bedding. Bianca was there for all of it, offering opinions on furniture and insisting they needed to include a proper desk for homework. Ivan watched her with Jenna and saw something he had never seen before, a glimpse of who Bianca must have been before life beat her down, confident and bright and full of hope. The day Jenna moved in, Ivan stood in his penthouse living room feeling completely out of his depth. He had built a business empire from nothing, but he had no idea how to be a parent. Jenna emerged from her room after unpacking, looking overwhelmed. "This place is insane," she said, staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Las Vegas Strip. "Do you know how rich you have to be to live here?" "Pretty rich," Ivan admitted, "but it's your home now too, so make yourself comfortable." "I don't know how to be comfortable in a place like this." "Then we'll figure it out together. Ground rules, though. You go to school, you keep your grades up, and you're honest with me. I don't care if you screw up, but I care if you lie about it." "Deal," Jenna nodded. "Deal. Can I ask you something? Anything? Why are you really doing this? And don't give me the speech about having resources." Nobody fosters a teenager out of the goodness of their heart. Ivan sat down on his leather couch and gestured for Jenna to join him. "You're right, there's more to it. When I was your age, I had everything. Loving parents, a nice home, plans for the future. Then my parents died and everything fell apart. I had money, but I didn't have anyone. I know what it's like to feel alone even when you're surrounded by people. I don't want that for you. But you barely know me. Then I'll get to know you. We have time." Bianca came over for dinner that first night, bringing Chinese takeout because nobody trusted Ivan to cook anything edible. They ate sitting on the floor around the coffee table, Jenna opening up about her past between bites of lo mein, Bianca sharing stories about her own difficult childhood, Ivan listening and learning. After Jenna went to bed, Ivan walked Bianca to the door. She lingered in the doorway, backlit by the hallway lights. "You're doing a good thing," she said softly. "She needs this, needs you. I couldn't have done it without you. You're the one who saw her as a person instead of a problem. We make a good team." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Ivan wanted to kiss her so badly his chest ached with it, but he couldn't. Jenna had just moved in. Bianca still worked for his company. The timing was all wrong. "Good night, Bianca." "Good night, Ivan." He watched her walk to the elevator, fighting every instinct telling him to call her back. Summer faded into fall. Jenna started at a new school and slowly began to trust that this placement might actually last. Ivan juggled work and parenting with mixed success. learning things like school supply shopping and parent-teacher conferences, and the importance of knocking before entering a teenage girl's room. Marcus became an unofficial uncle figure, teaching Jenna about sports and taking her to her first football game. Susan at Sunset Palm started inviting Jenna to bring your kid to work days, even though Jenna definitely wasn't a kid anymore. And Bianca was there through all of it, a constant presence that felt essential. She helped Jenna study for tests, took her shopping for homecoming dresses, explained the social dynamics of teenage girls to a very confused Ivan. They became an unlikely family unit, though nobody spoke about what that meant or where it was going. One October evening, Ivan was reviewing contracts when Jenna appeared in his office doorway looking nervous. "Can I talk to you about something?" she asked. "Of course. Come in." Jenna sat in the chair across from his desk, fidgeting with her sleeves. "So there's this thing at school, a father-daughter dance. I know you're technically my foster dad, but I was wondering if maybe you'd want to go." "It's okay if you don't. I know it's probably weird and you're busy, but I thought I'd ask." Ivan's throat tightened. "I would love to go with you. Really, really. When is it?" "Next Friday at 7. Then I'll be there. We'll get you a new dress, whatever you want." Jenna's smile was brighter than the Vegas Strip. "Thanks, Ivan. This means a lot." After she left, Ivan sat at his desk for a long time, staring at nothing. Somewhere in the past few months, Jenna had stopped being a charity case or a good deed. She had become his kid. The realization terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. He called Bianca without thinking about the time. "Everything okay?" she answered on the first ring, sounding worried. "Jenna asked me to take her to a father-daughter dance at school." "Oh, Ivan, that's wonderful." "I don't know how to dance. What if I step on her feet? What if I embarrass her in front of her friends?" Bianca laughed, the sound warm in his ear. "You'll be fine. Just be there and be present. That's all she needs. Will you help us find her a dress?" "She listens to you more than me about this stuff." "Of course. I'll pick her up after school tomorrow and we'll go shopping. Thank you for everything. I couldn't do this without you." "Yes, you could, but I'm glad you don't have to." The dance was held in the school gymnasium, decorated with twinkle lights and paper streamers. Ivan wore a suit, and Jenna wore a dark blue dress that Bianca had helped her pick out. They posed for photos with the other fathers and daughters, and Ivan felt a fierce pride seeing Jenna laughing and looking genuinely happy. "Can I tell you something?" Jenna said as they danced to some pop song Ivan didn't recognize. "Always. I've never had this before. A dad who shows up to things and cares about my life. Even when my real parents were around, they never did stuff like this. Well, you have it now, and I'm not going anywhere. Good. Because I've decided I want you to adopt me, if that's okay with you." Ivan stopped dancing and pulled Jenna into a hug right there in the middle of the gymnasium floor, not caring who saw. "That's more than okay with me. That's everything." When he got home that night, Ivan called Craig again. "Start adoption proceedings. I want this legal and permanent." "Took you long enough," Craig said. "I'll have the paperwork drawn up by Monday." Ivan wanted to call Bianca and tell her, but it was late and he needed to say this in person. The next morning, he drove to Sunset Palms and found her in the leasing office going over applications with Susan. "Can I borrow Bianca for a few minutes?" Ivan asked Susan, who waved them away with a knowing smile. They walked to the courtyard, where fall flowers bloomed in the desert sun. Bianca waited patiently while Ivan tried to figure out how to say what he needed to say. "Jenna asked me to adopt her," he finally said. "At the dance last night, she wants to make it official." "Ivan, that's incredible. How do you feel?" "Terrified, honored, happy, all of it at once." He took a breath. "And I need to tell you something else. Something I should have said months ago, but I was too afraid." Bianca's expression shifted, guarded. "Okay, I'm in love with you. I have been since that night on the highway, I think. You're the first person I think about when I wake up and the last person I think about before I sleep. You've changed my entire life, changed me as a person. And I know the timing is complicated and there are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way." Bianca stared at him for a long moment, and Ivan braced himself for rejection. Then she started laughing, the kind of laughter that comes from relief and joy and disbelief all mixed together. "You're an idiot," she said, but her eyes were shining. "Do you know how long I've been in love with you? Since the coffee meeting started, maybe before that. But I thought there was no way someone like you could want someone like me. Someone like you. Bianca, you're the strongest, kindest, most amazing person I've ever met. You make me want to be better, do better. How could I not love you?" She closed the distance between them and kissed him, right there in the courtyard of sunset palms where anyone could see. Ivan wrapped his arms around her and kissed her back, tasting salt from tears he wasn't sure were hers or his. When they finally broke apart, Bianca was smiling wider than he had ever seen. "So what now?" she asked. "Now I take you to dinner. A proper date, no more coffee shop meetings where we pretend we're just friends. What about Jenna? Jenna's been trying to set us up for weeks." "She'll be thrilled." Bianca laughed again, and Ivan thought about that night on the highway when he had almost kept driving, almost missed this chance. Thank God he had turned around. Their first official date was at a small Italian restaurant off the Strip, the kind of place locals went when they wanted good food without tourist crowds. Ivan had reserved a corner table with candles and low lighting, and Bianca wore a green dress that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. "This is surreal," Bianca said, twirling pasta around her fork. "6 months ago I was walking down a highway with nothing. Now I'm on a date with you in a restaurant that probably costs more per plate than I used to make in a week. Don't think about the money, just be here with me. I am here." "But Ivan, we need to talk about the practical stuff. I still work for your company. People are going to have opinions." "Let them have opinions. You earned your job through your own merit. Anyone who says otherwise can answer to me." "And what about Jenna? How does this affect her?" "I already talked to her. She's ecstatic. She wants you to know that she calls dibs on being flower girl at the wedding." Bianca choked on her wine. "Wedding? We've been dating for about 3 hours. I know, but I also know that I'm going to marry you someday." "Maybe that's crazy to say on a first date, but we've never done anything the conventional way." "You're definitely crazy, but I think I like that about you." They talked through multiple courses, the conversation flowing as easily as it always had. Ivan told her about his plans to expand the company into California, and Bianca shared her dreams of getting a bachelor's degree and maybe starting a nonprofit for homeless youth. They talked about Jenna and the adoption proceedings, about what kind of family they could build together. When Ivan walked Bianca to her apartment that night, she invited him in for coffee. They sat on her second-hand couch with her cat Mango curled between them, and it felt more comfortable than any 5-star hotel suite. "I should probably head home," Ivan said, even though he didn't want to move. "Or you could stay." Bianca's voice was soft but certain. "Not for anything except being together. I just don't want a night to end yet." So Ivan stayed, and they fell asleep on her couch with Mango purring contentedly. He woke at dawn with a crick in his neck and Bianca curled against his side, and he couldn't remember ever being happier. The next few months were a blur of good things. The adoption went through in December, and Ivan legally became Jenna's father in a courtroom ceremony that left everyone crying happy tears. Bianca was there holding Jenna's hand, already part of their family in every way that mattered. Ivan and Bianca's relationship deepened as fall turned to winter. They were careful around Jenna at first, not wanting to confuse her or make her uncomfortable, but she rolled her eyes at their caution and told them to just be normal. So they were normal, or as normal as their situation could be. Ivan and Bianca had dinner together several times a week, sometimes with Jenna and sometimes alone. They went to Jenna's basketball games together, helped her study for finals together, argued about the best way to cook Thanksgiving turkey together. At work, Bianca continued to excel. She got a promotion to senior leasing agent in January, a position she earned through her performance numbers and professionalism. A few people whispered about favoritism, but Susan shut down the gossip quickly by showing them Bianca's sales records, which were the highest in the company. One February evening, almost exactly a year after that night on the highway, Ivan took Bianca back to the same stretch of road where he had found her. He parked on the shoulder with his flashers on, and they stood in the cold desert air looking at the endless black asphalt. "Why did you bring me here?" Bianca asked, hugging herself against the chill. "Because this is where everything started, where my life split into before and after." Ivan pulled a small box from his pocket and dropped to one knee right there on the shoulder of Highway 95. "Bianca Foster, you saved me just as much as I saved you that night. You've given me a family, a purpose beyond just making money and building things. You've taught me what it means to be vulnerable and open and truly alive. Will you marry me?" Bianca was crying, nodding, saying yes before he even finished the question. Ivan slipped the ring on her finger and stood up to kiss her, both of them laughing and crying and holding each other while cars whizzed past in the darkness. "This is the most ridiculous proposal location ever," Bianca said against his chest. "I thought it was romantic, full circle and all that. It's romantic and ridiculous, but that's us, isn't it?" They told Jenna as soon as they got home, finding her in the kitchen making elaborate hot chocolate with far too many marshmallows. She shrieked and hugged them both, bouncing with excitement. "I knew it. I totally called this. When's the wedding? Can I help plan it? Am I really going to be the flower girl even though I'm 16 and that's kind of weird?" "You can be whatever you want to be in the wedding," Bianca said, hugging Jenna tight. "Maid of honor, flower girl, efficient. We'll make it work. What should I call you?" Jenna asked suddenly, pulling back to look at Bianca seriously. "I mean, you're going to be my dad's wife, which makes you my stepmom, but that sounds weird. Can I just call you Bianca? You can call me whatever feels right to you," Bianca said gently. "There's no rush to figure it out." "Okay. But for the record, I'm really glad my dad found you on that highway. Otherwise, he'd probably still be all sad and lonely and I'd be stuck in the system." Ivan ruffled Jenna's hair. "For the record, I'm really glad too. Best decision I ever made was turning that car around." They planned a small wedding for May. Nothing elaborate despite Ivan's wealth. Bianca wanted something intimate and meaningful, just family and close friends. Marcus served as Ivan's best man, and Susan stood up for Bianca. Jenna refused to be a flower girl, and instead insisted on walking Bianca down the aisle since Bianca didn't have family to do it. The ceremony was held in a garden venue just outside Las Vegas, with desert wildflowers blooming and mountains purple in the distance. Ivan stood at the altar watching Jenna walk Bianca toward him, and he thought about all the small decisions that had led to this moment. If he had stayed at that gala, if he had driven past that figure on the highway, if he had never turned around. But he had turned around, and now Bianca stood before him in a simple white dress with flowers in her hair, smiling like he was everything she had ever wanted. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to be partners through whatever came next, to build a life based on kindness and second chances. I promise to always turn around when you need me, Ivan said, and Bianca laughed through her tears. I promise to always be worth turning around for, she replied. When the officiant pronounced them married, their kiss was witnessed by everyone who had helped them along the way. Marcus whooped, and Jenna cheered, and Susan dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Even Craig, the lawyer, got a little misty. At the reception, Ivan danced with his wife and then with his daughter, and he felt a contentment he had never known was possible. Marcus pulled him aside between dances. You know, when you called me at midnight that first night saying you picked up a stranger on a highway, I thought you were having some kind of crisis, Marcus said. Turns out it was the opposite of a crisis. Turns out it was the best night of my life and I didn't even know it yet, Ivan agreed. Later, after the cake was cut and the toasts were made, Ivan found Bianca standing alone on the garden terrace, looking at the stars. You okay? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. More than okay. I'm just thinking about where I was a year ago. Alone, scared, walking down a highway in the dark, and now look at me. I have a husband, a daughter, a career, a family. It's almost too much to believe. Believe it. You deserve every bit of this happiness. We both do. Bianca turned in his arms to face him. I love you, Ivan Voss. Thank you for turning around. I love you too, Bianca Voss. Thank you for letting me. They swayed together in the darkness, no music playing, just the two of them holding on to each other and the life they had built from a chance encounter on a lonely highway. The next few years unfolded with the kind of gentle happiness that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Jenna thrived, graduating high school with honors and deciding to attend UNLF to study social work. Bianca went back to school and got her bachelor's degree, then started a nonprofit called Second Chances that provided housing assistance and job placement for homeless young adults. Ivan expanded his business, but learned to prioritize time with his family over endless work obligations. They bought a house together, a sprawling place in the foothills with room for everyone and everything. Bianca adopted a second cat, and then a dog, and Ivan pretended to be annoyed but secretly loved the chaos. Jenna brought friends over who filled the house with music and laughter. Marcus became a permanent fixture at family dinners, as did Susan and Craig and Patricia, the social worker. On their second anniversary, Bianca told Ivan she was pregnant. They had talked about having more children but left it up to chance, both of them feeling like their family was already complete with Jenna. The baby was a surprise, but the best kind. Jenna was ecstatic at the news. I'm going to be the best big sister, she declared. This kid is going to be so spoiled. The kid is definitely going to be spoiled with you as their sister, Ivan agreed. Their son was born in January, a perfect, healthy baby boy they named Owen. Jenna held him in the hospital and cried, telling him about how their dad had saved both her and their mom, and how they were the luckiest family in the world. Ivan stood watching his wife and two children, and he thought again about that night on the highway. How a moment of impulse, a decision to care about a stranger, had led to all of this. His entire world had changed because he turned around. One evening, when Owen was 6 months old and Jenna was home from college for the summer, the four of them sat in the backyard watching the sunset paint the Nevada sky in shades of orange and pink. Owen babbled happily in Bianca's arms, and Jenna lay in the grass with the dog's head on her stomach. I want to tell you both something, Jenna said suddenly. I've been thinking about this for a while. I want to change my last name to Voss. Legally, I mean. I know the adoption already made me part of the family, but I want the same last name as all of you. Ivan felt his eyes burn with tears. Jenna, we would be honored. Plus it'll be less confusing when people ask if Owen is my brother, Jenna added with a grin. If we all have the same last name, nobody will question it. Nobody better question it regardless, Bianca said fiercely. Your siblings in every way that matters. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to emerge, Ivan pulled Bianca close and watched their children. Owen reached for Jenna, who took him carefully and made silly faces that sent him into peals of baby laughter. The dog rolled over demanding belly rubs. The cats prowled through the garden hunting imaginary prey. You ever think about that night? Bianca asked softly. About what would have happened if you had just kept driving? Sometimes, Ivan admitted. But then I remember I didn't keep driving. I turned around. And that made all the difference. For both of us, Bianca said. You saved me, but I think maybe I saved you too. You definitely saved me. I was so lost that night, drowning in a life that looked successful from the outside but felt empty. You reminded me what really matters. What's that? Being there for people, building something that lasts. Love. Bianca kissed him as the first stars appeared, bright and constant in the darkening sky. Jenna made exaggerated gagging noises and Owen squealed with delight. The dog barked at nothing in particular. It was messy and chaotic and absolutely perfect. Years later, when people asked Ivan about his success, he would tell them about hard work and smart investments and lucky breaks. But privately, he knew the truth. His real success wasn't measured in properties owned or money in the bank. It was measured in moments like this, a warm summer evening with his wife and children, building a life based on the simple decision to turn around when someone needed help. Bianca's nonprofit grew over the years, helping hundreds of young people find stable housing and employment. She hired people who had been through the system themselves, believing that lived experience made the best advocates. Jenna interned there during college breaks and eventually joined the board of directors. They created a scholarship program in partnership with UNLV for students aging out of foster care. On the 5-year anniversary of the night Ivan found Bianca on the highway, they threw a party. Not to celebrate their meeting specifically, but to celebrate the nonprofit and all the lives it had changed. Dozens of young people showed up, people Bianca and her team had helped find their footing. They shared stories of transformation, of second chances, of strangers who became family. Ivan stood at the edge of the crowd watching Bianca work the room, so confident and radiant. She caught his eye across the space and smiled, that same smile that had transformed her face in the diner all those years ago. He smiled back and mouthed, "I love you." She blew him a kiss in return. Jenna appeared at his elbow, bouncing 3-year-old Owen on her hip. "Mom's amazing, isn't she? She really is. You know what's crazy? If you hadn't picked her up that night, none of this would exist. The nonprofit, this community, our family. One decision changed hundreds of lives." "One decision to care about a stranger," Ivan said. "That's all it takes sometimes." "Well, I'm glad you're the kind of person who makes that decision. Otherwise, I'd probably still be bouncing around foster homes and Mom would be who knows where and Owen wouldn't even exist. And I'd still be miserable and alone, attending galas I hated and building things without any real purpose behind it." Jenna shifted Owen to her other hip. "Dad, can I ask you something? When you saw Mom that night, did you know she was going to be important? Like, did you have some feeling about it?" Ivan thought about it carefully. "I don't know if I knew she'd be important specifically, but I knew I couldn't drive past without helping. And then, when we talked, there was something about her strength, her resilience even in the worst moment of her life. That stayed with me. And now she's your wife and the mother of your children and probably the best thing that ever happened to you. Definitely the best thing that ever happened to me. Well, tied with you and Owen." Jenna grinned and handed him his son. "I'm going to go help Mom mingle." Try not to let Owen eat anything he finds on the floor. Ivan watched his daughter wade into the crowd, stopping to hug people and chat like she had known them all her life. In a way, she had. This community of people who understood second chances had become extended family to all of them. Owen tugged on Ivan's collar. "Mama! Mama's busy right now, buddy. You're stuck with me. Dada." Owen seemed satisfied with that answer and snuggled into Ivan's shoulder. Marcus found them a few minutes later, carrying 2 beers. "Your kid's going to be asleep in about 5 minutes if you keep swaying like that." "Good. It's past his bedtime anyway." Ivan took one of the beers with his free hand. "Thanks for coming. Wouldn't miss it. This thing Bianca built, it's impressive. You two have done something really meaningful here." "Bianca did it. I just write the checks. Don't sell yourself short. Money helps, but Bianca told me you're involved way more than just financially. You do site visits, you mentor some of the participants, you connect people with job opportunities. You care, and that matters." Ivan watched Bianca across the room, animated and joyful as she talked to a young woman who was graduating from the program. "She makes me want to be better. Want to do more than just accumulate wealth for its own sake. That's what love does, man. It transforms you." Marcus clinked his beer against Ivan's. "To transformation and second chances, and to turning around when someone needs you," Ivan added. As the party wound down, Ivan loaded a sleeping Owen into his car seat while Bianca said final goodbyes. Jenna had left earlier with friends, promising to be home by midnight. The drive back to their house was quiet, just the sound of Owen's soft breathing from the backseat and the radio playing low. "That was a good night," Bianca said, reaching over to hold Ivan's hand. "Seeing all those people thriving, knowing we had even a small part in their success. This is what I was meant to do. You're incredible. You know that, right? I'm just someone who got lucky. Someone turned around when I needed them most, and that changed everything." Ivan brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "I'm the one who got lucky." That night, I was driving away from a party where I felt completely alone despite being surrounded by people. I had everything material success could offer, but none of it meant anything. And then I saw you, and something clicked. Like the universe was saying, here's your chance to be part of something real. "Look at you getting philosophical," Bianca teased, but her eyes were soft. 5 years of marriage to you has made me examine the deeper meaning of things. Good. You were too focused on surface-level success when I met you. Now you're focused on what actually matters." They pulled into their driveway, and Ivan carefully transferred Owen to his crib while Bianca changed into comfortable clothes. When he found her on their bedroom balcony, she was looking at the stars just like she had been on their wedding night. "Remember when you proposed to me on the side of the highway?" Bianca asked, as Ivan wrapped his arms around her. "I remember you calling it the most ridiculous proposal location ever." "It was ridiculous, and perfect, just like us." "Just like us," Ivan agreed. They stood there together, 2 people who had found each other in the darkness and built a life full of light. The highway where they met was miles away, but Ivan thought about it often. That stretch of asphalt where everything changed, where he made the decision that mattered most. Some people might call it fate or destiny, but Ivan knew better. It wasn't fate that made him slow down that night. It was a choice to care, to help, to turn around when someone needed him. And that choice had led to everything beautiful in his life. As summer turned to fall again, their routine settled into comfortable patterns. Ivan scaled back his work travel even further, wanting to be present for Owen's toddler years in a way he hadn't been able to with Jenna during her childhood. He attended every pediatrician appointment, every parent-toddler class, every playground adventure. Bianca continued expanding the nonprofit, opening a second location across town and developing new programs for youth aging out of the system. Jenna graduated from college in the spring and immediately joined Second Chances full-time as a case manager. She brought fresh energy and ideas, and Bianca loved working alongside their daughter. Watching them together, heads bent over case files or brainstorming new initiatives, filled Ivan with quiet pride. One evening, Ivan was giving Owen a bath when his phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost let it go to voicemail, but something made him answer. "Hello, is this Ivan Voss?" A young woman's voice, nervous and uncertain. "Yes, who's calling?" "You don't know me, but my name is Sophia. I aged out of foster care last year and I've been struggling. Someone gave me your wife's number for Second Chances, but the waiting list is long. Then they mentioned that you sometimes help people directly and I found your number online. I'm sorry to bother you at home." "You're not bothering me. What's going on, Sophia?" "I'm about to be evicted from my apartment. I lost my job 2 months ago and I've been trying to find something new, but it's hard. I don't have family to fall back on. I don't know what to do." Ivan heard the desperation in her voice and felt an echo of that night with Bianca. Another young person alone and scared with nowhere to turn. "Sophia, where are you right now?" "At my apartment, but I have to be out by tomorrow. I don't have anywhere to go." "Hold on 1 second. Ivan wrapped Owen in a towel and carried him out to the living room where Bianca was reading. He quickly explained the situation. Bianca took the phone without hesitation. "Sophia, this is Bianca. We're going to help you, okay? Here's what we're going to do." Ivan listened as his wife efficiently arranged emergency housing through the nonprofit's network, set up a job interview with one of their partner companies, and connected Sophia with resources she needed. By the time they hung up, Sophia was crying with relief. "You're amazing," Ivan said, pulling Bianca close. "No, we're amazing. This is our thing now, remember, helping people who need second chances. How many people do you think we've helped over the years? Directly, hundreds, maybe thousands if you count everyone the nonprofit has served. Indirectly, who knows? Every person we help goes on to help others. It ripples outward." Ivan thought about all the ripples that started from that one night. Bianca found stable employment and housing, which allowed her to help Jenna, which led to Jenna's adoption and her eventual career in social work. The nonprofit helped hundreds who went on to build better lives and help others in turn. And it all traced back to a simple decision to turn around. "What are you thinking?" Bianca asked, reading his expression. "Just that I'm grateful for all of this, for you and our family and the work we do, for the chance to make a real difference. Me too." Bianca kissed him softly. "Now let's get our son in his pajamas before he runs around naked all night." Owen had indeed escaped his towel and was streaking through the house giggling. Ivan chased him while Bianca laughed, and it was chaotic and domestic, and everything he never knew he needed. That night, after Owen was finally asleep and Jenna had come home and gone to her room, Ivan and Bianca sat together on their couch. She was reading case files and he was reviewing financial reports, but their legs were tangled together, and occasionally one would read something aloud to the other. "Hey," Bianca said suddenly, setting down her papers, "I was thinking, we should do something for the 10-year anniversary. 10 years since the highway. Yeah, it's in a few months, February 16th. We should do something meaningful to mark it. What did you have in mind?" "I don't know yet, but that night changed both our lives so completely, it feels like it deserves recognition." Ivan considered. "What if we did something for people still in that situation? Like an event where we connect homeless youth with resources, job opportunities, housing assistance. Make it annual." "I love that. The Second Chance Gala. Bianca's eyes lit up. We could have it at one of your hotels, invite all our partners and donors, raise money for the nonprofit, and we could share our story, show people that help really does change lives. I'll have Marcus start organizing it tomorrow. The event took months to plan, but by the following February, everything was ready. They held it at Ivan's flagship hotel on the Strip, transforming the ballroom into an elegant space that didn't feel intimidating. They invited young people from the foster system and homeless shelters, making sure everyone felt welcome regardless of their current circumstances. Alongside them came business owners, potential employers, housing providers, and donors who could make connections and offer opportunities. The night of the gala, Ivan stood at the entrance greeting guests. He was shaking hands with a local developer when he saw her, a young woman in jeans and a borrowed blazer, looking uncertain and out of place. She reminded him so much of Bianca that first morning at the hotel, wary and trying to appear confident. "Welcome," Ivan said, approaching her with a warm smile. "I'm Ivan. What's your name?" "Destiny," she said quietly. "I'm here from the youth shelter downtown. They said there would be job opportunities." "There are. But first, let me introduce you to some people who can help." Ivan guided her inside, making sure she had food and introducing her to potential employers and mentors. Throughout the evening, he watched dozens of similar connections happen. A teenager finding a job lead, a young woman learning about housing assistance, someone making a mentor connection that could change their trajectory. When it came time for speeches, Bianca took the stage. She looked stunning in a burgundy dress, but more than that, she looked powerful, confident, like someone who knew her worth and her purpose. 10 years ago tonight, I was walking down Highway 95 in the middle of the night," Bianca began. "I had nothing. No money, no phone, nowhere to go. I had just left a dangerous situation, and I was walking toward a diner 15 miles away because I didn't know what else to do. And then a man in a black Mercedes pulled over and asked if I needed help." Ivan watched from the side of the stage as Bianca told their story. She didn't sugarcoat it or make it more dramatic than it was. She just told the truth about being desperate and scared, about a stranger showing unexpected kindness, about how one moment of compassion rippled into changed lives. "That man is my husband now," Bianca continued, gesturing to Ivan. "Together, we've built a family and an organization dedicated to helping people who are where I was 10 years ago. Because we believe that everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves someone who will turn around when they need help." The applause was thunderous. Ivan joined Bianca on stage, and together they announced the evening's fundraising total enough to fully fund the nonprofit's operations for an entire year plus open a third location. Later, as they were saying goodnight to the last guests, a young man approached them. He looked to be in his early 20s, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, "but I wanted to say thank you, not just for tonight but for everything. I was in the first group of people second chances helped 5 years ago. I had aged out of foster care and was living in my car. Your program helped me get housing and a job. Now I'm a shift manager at a restaurant and I'm saving to start my own business. None of that would have been possible without you both." Bianca hugged him, tears streaming down her face. "This is why we do it. Thank you for sharing your story." As they drove home that night, Ivan felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The gala had raised money and awareness, created connections and opportunities, celebrated the power of second chances. It was everything they had hoped it would be. "We're going to do this every year," Bianca said, her head resting on Ivan's shoulder. "Make it a tradition. Every February we'll bring people together and create opportunities." "I love that idea. The Second Chance Gala becomes an institution, just like us." Bianca smiled. We've become an institution. The couple who met on a highway and built an empire of kindness. An empire of kindness. I like that better than an empire of real estate. When they got home, Jenna was waiting up with Owen, who had refused to go to sleep without saying good night to his parents. Ivan scooped up his son and held him close, breathing in the baby shampoo smell of his hair. How was the gala? Jenna asked. Perfect, Bianca said. We raised enough to fund operations for a full year. The connections people made tonight are going to change lives. That's amazing. I wish I could have been there, but someone had to stay home with this guy. Jenna ruffled Owen's hair. He's been asking for you all night. Mama, Dada, Owen confirmed, reaching for Bianca. They took turns tucking Owen in, reading him 3 books even though it was well past his bedtime. When he finally drifted off, Ivan and Bianca stood in the doorway of his room watching him sleep. You think he'll understand someday, Bianca whispered, about how his parents met and why we do this work. I think he'll grow up knowing that helping people is what you do. That when someone needs you, you turn around. It'll just be normal to him. Good. That's exactly what I want, for our kids to grow up believing that kindness is the most important thing. They closed Owen's door softly and went to their own room. As they got ready for bed, Ivan thought about the full circle of it all. 10 years ago, he had been getting ready for bed after a charity gala, feeling empty and purposeless. Tonight, he was getting ready for bed after their gala, feeling fulfilled and purposeful. The difference was love. Love for Bianca, for their children, for the work they did together. What are you thinking about? Bianca asked, catching him staring into space. Just about how different my life is now versus 10 years ago, how much better everything is. Because you turned around on a highway. Because I turned around on a highway, Ivan agreed. Time continued its forward march. The Second Chance Gala became an annual event that grew larger each year. Jenna got married to a fellow social worker she met through the nonprofit, and they talked about adopting from foster care someday. Owen started kindergarten, already showing signs of his mother's compassionate nature and his father's business sense. On a quiet Sunday afternoon when Owen was 7 and Jenna was 29, the whole family gathered at the house for dinner. Jenna's husband, Marcus, named after Ivan's assistant, who had passed away the year before, was grilling in the backyard. Owen was playing with Jenna's new puppy. Bianca was making her famous pasta sauce while Ivan set the table. Did you ever imagine this? Bianca asked, stirring the sauce. When you picked me up that night, did you imagine we'd end up here? Not specifically, no, but I felt something even then, a sense that my life was about to change. And it did change, for both of us. Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come. Believe it. You've earned every bit of this happiness. Their children's laughter drifted in from the backyard, mixing with the smell of grilling food and the warmth of home. Ivan wrapped his arms around his wife and rested his chin on her shoulder, watching her cook just like he had watched her do 1,000 times before. You know what the best part is? Bianca said. What's that? We get to do this forever. Build this life, help people, love each other. We turned one moment on a highway into a whole lifetime of meaning. Best decision I ever made, Ivan murmured into her hair. Best decision we both made. I chose to trust you to get in that car, to accept your help. That was brave too. You're right. We both made the choice to be open to what could happen. And look what happened. Dinner was chaotic and wonderful, full of laughter and stories, and the kind of comfortable chaos that comes from family who genuinely enjoys being together. After everyone left, Ivan and Bianca cleaned up side by side, falling into the easy rhythm of a partnership built over years of practice. When the kitchen was clean and Owen was tucked into bed, they went out to their balcony and looked at the stars. It was a clear February night, cold but beautiful, and Ivan thought about another February night long ago when he had driven down a dark highway not knowing his entire future was about to change. "I love you," he said to Bianca, pulling her close. "I love you too. Thank you for turning around. Thank you for letting me." They stood together under the stars, two people who had found each other in darkness and built a life full of light. The highway was far away now, but its lessons stayed with them. Help when you can. Turn around when someone needs you. Be brave enough to accept kindness. Build something meaningful. And most importantly, love with everything you have, because you never know when a single moment of compassion will change your entire world. Years later, at the 20th Annual Second Chance Gala, Ivan and Bianca would stand on stage together with silver threading through their hair, and Owen, now a teenager himself, watching proudly from the audience. They would tell their story again, because it bore repeating. Because people needed to hear that hope was real, that second chances existed, that turning around when someone needs you could lead to everything beautiful. But tonight, on this quiet February evening, they simply held each other and felt grateful. Grateful for the choice they had both made to be open to help. Grateful for the family they had built. Grateful for every moment that led them here. The highway stretched miles away in the darkness, but its lesson remained clear. Sometimes the best thing you can do is turn around. Turn around when someone needs help. Turn around when life offers you something unexpected. Turn around and discover that the person you saved might just save you too. And if you're very lucky, that moment on the highway becomes the beginning of forever.